Hi, fifth grade scientists. Miss Gara here, and I just got back from a really long walk. I was hiking through some pretty cool landforms. Oh, I'm so tired. Now, yesterday, you guys were introduced to some different landforms around the world. I am wondering if you were able to see during the break that we just had, if you were able to see some different landforms that we talked about and where you saw them. So go ahead and have a talk with your teacher and share if you did see some landforms while you were on your break and where you saw them and what they might have been. And then come back to me. I hope you guys had a good discussion, and some of you, I'm sure, were able to see some pretty cool landforms. Here in Texas, even here in Austin, we have some of those landforms, which is super, super cool. So today, we're gonna actually talk a little bit about, I'm gonna do a demo with you guys on a couple of different landforms and how they were created, because they weren't just poof, there, right? They had to be created somehow. So this is the first demonstration that I am going to show you, and I want you to talk to your teacher about what you notice, because remember, in science, I can't just always take y'all to those different landforms. We have to sometimes bring those landforms here, right, in a smaller version. So that's what I did. I brought one of the landforms here to you guys, and we're gonna talk a little bit about how this particular landform is formed. So, have a discussion with your teacher and talk about what landform do you think Miss Gara is showing you right now? What is this? And what do you think we're gonna demonstrate? So have a talk. Okay, so I hope that you noticed that this was sand. And of course, I can't bring an ocean to you, but this is sand. So we're gonna talk a little bit about sand dunes and how they are formed. So I want you to think about, if you've never seen a sand dune before, and I've provided some pictures for you guys to look at, and then we saw some yesterday. So go ahead and look at those pictures. And if you have seen sand dunes, talk about where you saw them. Go ahead and do that and then come right back to me. All right, so I hope that you guys said that you saw sand dunes in a couple of different places. One place might be on the coast, right? By the ocean. There's usually sand dunes there. Sometimes you see sand dunes in like desert areas. There's lots of sand there and places like that. So those are typically places where you'll see sand dunes because that's the kind of soil that is there. Then think about when you're at the ocean and how does it feel outside? Usually it's pretty breezy. The wind is always blowing. It's much windier on the coast. So we're gonna talk a little bit about, and I'm gonna demo how sand dunes are formed, and hopefully you guys can figure out, based on my demonstration, how they're formed. So first I'm gonna be very safe, because if I'm dealing with sand and I'm gonna be doing some things with it, and I don't want the sand to get in my eyes, so I really need to be safe and wear my safety goggles. Okay, so while Miss Gara is demonstrating, I want you thinking about sand dunes are not made from Miss Gara blowing into a straw. I want you to think about, how does this represent how actual, real, true sand dunes are formed and how they change. All right, here we go. I want you to notice what's happening. Oh, sorry. First, draw a picture in a slideshow. Teachers, you can go to the slideshow. Draw a picture of what the sand dunes look like before Miss Gara starts to blow through the straw. Pause it and then come back. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and demo how sand dunes are formed. All right, so pause and talk about what you noticed happened and how it happened. All right, so a couple of things. I hope you guys realize that me blowing through the straw was actually representing wind. It's very windy by the coast, and wind can cause land to change. Wind caused sand dunes to change and form because they moved the sand with the wind, right, which is called erosion. We talked about that yesterday. And when the sand moved, it dropped off somewhere else. It dropped off down here at the bottom. It also dropped off on other places in the sand and maybe made that dune a little bit bigger. And the dropping off of the sand is called deposition, right? I'm depositing the sand somewhere else. The wind is depositing the sand somewhere else, so that is deposition. So the wind moved it, erosion, and then dropped it off because it has to stop moving somewhere, dropped it off, which is deposition, to create sand dunes. So there you go. Go ahead and draw after the wind blew the sand and what it formed. Thank you. I'll see you back here in a little bit. Hi, fifth graders. Welcome back to part 2 of our landform formation. Okay, so the first part was about sand dunes and how wind is what creates sand dunes. It moves the sand, it erodes it, right, through erosion, and then it deposits it, drops it off through deposition to create sand dunes. Our next part 2 landform is going to be the creation of canyons and deltas. Now, if you've never seen a canyon or a delta, then go ahead and look at the pictures that I included in the slideshow. And then you might want to talk a little bit about some canyons or places where you've been where you've seen canyons and deltas. Now, deltas and canyons are formed in a different way. So again, mascara is showing you and demonstrating a canyon. I brought a canyon and created a canyon here to you, right? I've elevated, this is the earth and the soil, right? And it's elevated because canyons are typically elevated, right? And those happen from something other than wind, the way that those are formed. So go ahead in your student notebook. I want you to go ahead and create the before canyon and then come back when you're done. Okay, so hopefully you guys were all able to draw what the canyon looked like before. Now, this is water, and then be thinking about when you're looking at this demonstration, what is mascara showing you with this water? What is it representing? Because canyons are not formed by a jug of water, right? That's not part of the earth. So what are something natural from earth that happens in earth that this is representing? Okay, here we go. And hopefully you're already noticing some things that are happening here. All right, so put that down right over here. And I hope some things that you noticed was the movement, right? That was obviously caused by water. And water is so powerful. Water is so very powerful that this happened very quickly, but typically forming a canyon with water happens over a very long period of time. So when water, right, say a river, or from rain, right? Because rivers are formed from rain and the water cycle. And so when a river is going through land for a very long period of time, it moves, it breaks away, it moves, and then it deposits that soil that it is going through. So even these large, y'all will notice some of these large rocks here that were moved and deposited down here at the bottom of the canyon. So first, right, it cut through and it broke away some of that soil and those rocks, which is weathering, right? Breaking away of the soil and the rocks. Then it eroded it. It moved that soil. So that was erosion from the water because it was so powerful. And then that soil has to go somewhere, right? And gravity pulls it down. So gravity is pulling that soil and those rocks down and depositing it through deposition at the bottom of the river. So the water is forming the canyon because it's breaking it away and moving it, so weathering and erosion. And then the delta, which is down here, it forms kind of like a little triangle shape over here, and that's the deposited soil from the water and the soil being moved, and then it drops it off. The soil has to go somewhere, right? It drops it off and it deposits, so at the bottom of the river is where it deposits that soil, creating triangular shaped deltas. So water forms canyons and deltas. So go ahead, and if you need to rewind, I want you to go ahead and draw the after water. So after I showed you the water and the movement through the water, draw the after, and then have a discussion with your teacher about what formed the canyon and what formed the delta. All right, I'll see you back for part 3. Bye. All right, welcome back to part 3. Okay, I want you to go ahead. I've created a landform, which is this mountain. I want you to go ahead in your before for part 3, because this time we're going to be looking at U-shaped and V-shaped valleys. So in part 2, we kind of also showed how when water cuts through, it also makes a valley as well, which I didn't mention that earlier. But this is another way that a valley is formed. So I want you to go ahead and draw your mountain for part 3, and then come back when you're done. Okay, so this next landform was created from this, which is an example of ice, right? So a glacier. Glaciers are ice, but they also have soil, rocks, and things like that in them as well. So over time, right, so over long periods of time, glaciers form, and it takes them a very, very, very long time to form. And then they move, right? They form and they move. And as they move, they are cutting slowly, slowly. This takes millions of years. They are slowly cutting through that land because of that movement of the glacier, right? And glacier's ice, so frozen water. So I want you to notice as that glacier slowly cuts through the land, what shape you see that it forms on this landform. Are you able to zoom into that? I hope you notice that it makes kind of a U shape. And that U shape is created by a glacier, which is ice, cutting through that land over millions of years and creating what would be a U-shaped valley. And liquid water cutting through the land like a river over millions of years would create a V-shaped valley because of the shape of that water, right? Liquid water kind of takes the shape of what it is, but this ice, right, it's a solid. And so the land takes that shape of the solid. So that glacier would create the U shape in that landform. So go ahead and draw your after. I hope you enjoyed your time with Miss Guerra today, talking about those different landforms and how they were created. That ice, right, breaking away, weathering that soil and eroding it, moving it so that it can create that U shape. So these U-shaped valleys are created from weathering and erosion from ice, a glacier. So I hope you guys enjoyed talking about landforms, and I can't wait to hear what you learned about them. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, scientists.